I had been driving trains for over 20 years, and I had seen my fair share of strange things on the U.S. railway. But nothing could have prepared me for the night I saw Bigfoot. It was a quiet night, and I was driving my usual route through a dense forest. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the trees. As I approached a bend in the track, I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. At first I thought it was a bear or some other wild animal, but as I got closer, I realized that it was something much more unusual. It was a massive creature, standing on two legs and covered in thick, dark hair. I slowed the train down, trying to get a better look at the creature. It seemed to be watching me, its eyes reflecting the light from the train's headlights. It was easily over 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a muscular build. As I got closer, the creature suddenly turned and ran off into the forest. I was left standing there, staring into the darkness, wondering if what I had just seen was real. When I arrived at the next station, I reported the sighting to my colleagues. They looked at me skeptically, thinking that I had simply seen a bear or some other large animal. But I knew what I had seen, and I was convinced that it was Bigfoot. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about the creature I had seen. I read up on Bigfoot sightings and discovered that there were many other reports of similar encounters in the same area. Some people even claimed to have heard strange noises in the night, like howls or screams that couldn't be explained. As time passed, I found myself becoming more and more obsessed with the idea of Bigfoot. I would spend my free time searching the woods, hoping to catch another glimpse of the creature. But it seemed to have vanished, as if it had never been there at all. Then, one night, as I was driving through the same area, I saw it again. This time it was closer, and I could see it more clearly. Its eyes were dark and intelligent, and its expression seemed almost curious. I slowed the train down again, hoping to get a better look at the creature. But as before, it suddenly turned and ran off into the forest. This time, however, I was determined to follow it. I parked the train and grabbed a flashlight, then set off into the woods. The moon was still full, casting a pale light over everything. I could hear the sounds of the forest around me, the rustling of leaves, and the distant hooting of an owl. As I moved deeper into the forest, I could feel a sense of unease creeping over me. It was as if the woods themselves were alive, watching me and waiting for something to happen. Then suddenly I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. It was a low growl, deep and guttural, like nothing I had ever heard before. I shone my flashlight in the direction of the noise and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at me. I froze, unsure of what to do. Then the creature stepped out of the shadows, revealing itself fully for the first time. It was even more massive than I had thought, with thick muscles rippling beneath its fur. For a moment, we stood there staring at each other. Then the creature turned and ran into the forest again, disappearing from sight. I never saw Bigfoot again after that night, but the memory of that encounter stayed with me, haunting me for years. And whenever I drove through that stretch of track, I couldn't help but wonder if Bigfoot was still out there, watching and waiting for its next encounter. As time went on, I found that my obsession with Bigfoot had taken a toll on me. I had become reclusive, spending most of my time alone and lost in thought. My colleagues had noticed the change in me and had started to worry. One day, one of my colleagues approached me and suggested that I speak to a therapist. At first, I was resistant to the idea, but eventually I agreed to give it a try. Over the next few months, I met regularly with the therapist, talking about my experiences and working through my obsession with Bigfoot. It wasn't an easy process, but slowly I started to feel like myself again. Then one night I was driving through the same stretch of track where I had seen Bigfoot. As I approached the spot where I had seen the creature, I felt a sense of unease creeping over me. It was as if the memories of that encounter had suddenly flooded back. But then something strange happened. As I rounded the bend in the track, I saw a group of people standing by the side of the road. They were holding cameras and binoculars, pointing them into the forest. Curious, I pulled the train to a stop and walked over to them. They explained that they were a group of Bigfoot enthusiasts who had come to the area to search for the creature. At first I was skeptical, but as they showed me the photos and videos they had captured, I felt a strange sense of validation. It was as if my own experience had been confirmed by their sightings. Over the next few weeks, I spent some time with the Bigfoot enthusiasts, talking to them about their experiences and sharing my own. It was a strange and unexpected turn of events, but it helped me to come to terms with what I had seen. In the end, I realized that it wasn't about proving that Bigfoot was real or not. It was about the sense of wonder and mystery that comes with the unknown. And although I'd never saw Bigfoot again, the memory of that encounter will stay with me forever. I remember the night, even though it was several years ago. I was driving a train through the dark and desolate stretches of the U.S. railway when something strange happened. As I was making my way through a particularly remote section of the tracks, I saw something in the distance that made my heart skip a beat. It was a figure, humanoid in shape, but with an otherworldly glow that seemed to emanate from within. It was moving toward me at a frightening speed, and I had no idea what to do. I was frozen in terror, unsure of whether to stop the train or keep going. As the figure drew closer, I could see that it was surrounded by a strange mist, and its features were indistinct and blurred. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, and I knew that I was facing something that was beyond my understanding. As the figure drew closer, I could feel the train slowing down, as if something was pulling it back. The more I tried to push the train forward, the harder it became to move. I was trapped, surrounded by an invisible force that seemed to be holding me back. It was then that I heard a voice, a soft whisper that seemed to come from nowhere. "Don't be afraid," the voice said. "I'm not here to harm you." I was stunned, unsure of what to do. I had never heard a voice like that before, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in the presence of something powerful and otherworldly. As the train came to a stop, the figure approached me, its glow brightening as it drew near. I could feel the heat of its aura, and I knew that I was in the presence of something that was not of this world. The figure spoke again, its voice gentle and soothing. "I am a messenger," it said, "sent to deliver a warning to those who would dare to trespass on these tracks." I was confused, unsure of what the figure meant. "What warning?" I asked. The figure glowed brighter, its aura pulsating with energy. "This railway is haunted," it said, "and those who dare to travel it do so at their own peril." I was skeptical, unsure of whether to believe the figure's words, but as I looked around, I could see that there was a strange energy in the air, a sense of unease that seemed to permeate everything. The figure continued, "There are spirits here, restless and angry. They seek revenge against those who have wronged them, and they will not rest until their vengeance is complete." I was starting to feel a sense of dread, a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. "What can I do?" I asked, hoping for some kind of guidance. The figure was silent for a moment, its aura pulsing with energy. "You must be respectful," it said. "Treat these tracks with the reverence they deserve and never take them for granted. For if you do, you may find yourself at the mercy of the spirits that haunt these rails." With that, the figure faded away, leaving me alone in the darkness. I could feel the train start to move again, as if something had released its hold on it. And as I drove through the night, I knew that I had witnessed something truly paranormal, something that would stay with me for the rest of my life. I was driving my train through the remote stretches of the U.S. railway, deep in thought and enjoying the solitude that comes with the job. It was a clear night, and the stars were out in full force. As I looked out at the darkness ahead, something caught my eye. It was a figure standing on the tracks directly in front of me. At first I thought it was an animal, or maybe a person who was lost or confused. But as the train drew closer, I could see that there was something strange about the figure. It was tall, almost impossibly so, and it seemed to be surrounded by an otherworldly glow. I tried to stop the train, but it was too late. I could hear the screech of the brakes as the train hit the figure, and I braced myself for the impact. But as the train ground to a halt, I could see that the figure was still standing. It hadn't moved, or even flinched, as the train barreled towards it. I was stunned, unsure of what to do. As I approached the figure, I could see that it was not a person or an animal, but something else entirely. It was humanoid in shape, but its features were indistinct and blurred, as if it was made of smoke or mist. I was filled with a sense of dread, unsure of what I was facing. The figure spoke, its voice echoing through the darkness. "Who dares to disturb my rest?" it said. I was paralyzed, unable to move or speak. I had never experienced anything like this before, and I didn't know what to do. The figure spoke again, its voice softer this time. "Do not be afraid," it said. "I mean you no harm." I was still scared, but I tried to compose myself. "What are you?" I asked. The figure glowed brighter, its aura pulsing with energy. "I am a spirit," it said, "one who was wronged in life and seeks justice in death." I was confused, unsure of what the figure meant. "What justice?" I asked. The figure glowed brighter still, its aura pulsating with anger. "I was killed on these tracks," it said, "my life taken from me by those who did not value it, and now I seek revenge against those who would dare to travel these rails without proper respect." I was starting to feel a sense of unease, a feeling that I was in the presence of something powerful and dangerous. "What can I do?" I asked, hoping for some kind of guidance. The figure was silent for a moment, its aura pulsing with energy. "You must be respectful," it said. "Treat these tracks with the reverence they deserve and never take them for granted. For if you do, you may find yourself at the mercy of the spirits that haunt these rails." With that, the figure faded away, leaving me alone in the darkness. I could feel the train start to move again, as if something had released its hold on it. And as I drove through the night, I knew that I had witnessed something truly paranormal, something that would stay with me for the rest of my life. From that day on, I made sure to treat the railway with the respect it deserved. I never took its power for granted, and I always remembered the warning of the spirit that had appeared before me. And although I never saw anything quite like that figure again, I always had a sense that there were powerful forces at work, unseen but ever present, on the U.S. railway. Over the years, I heard stories from other train drivers about strange encounters they had experienced on the same stretch of track. Some claimed to have seen ghostly apparitions, while others reported feeling a sense of unease whenever they drove through the area. Despite these stories, the railway company dismissed them as mere superstition and continued to operate trains as usual. But for those of us who had experienced something paranormal, we knew that there was more to the story than the company would admit. As time passed, I retired from driving trains, but the memory of that night stayed with me. I often wondered about the spirit that I had encountered and what had led it to haunt the railway. Was it seeking revenge against those who had wronged it in life, or was it simply a lost soul looking for answers? I may never know the answer, but I do know that the experience changed me forever. It opened my eyes to the world of the paranormal and made me realize that there are forces at work in our world that we cannot always see or understand. And so, whenever I hear stories of strange encounters on the U.S. railway, I know that there is more to them than meets the eye. Perhaps there are other spirits like the one I encountered who seek justice in death, or perhaps there are simply powerful energies at work, manifesting themselves in ways that we cannot comprehend. Whatever the case may be, I know that the U.S. railway will always hold a special place in my heart, It was on those tracks that I encountered something truly otherworldly, something that defied explanation and left me with a sense of wonder and awe. And although I may never experience something like that again, I know that the memory of that night will stay with me forever,